Hello, welcome to my bed. I'm going to be starting a reading vlog for The Sunshine Court by Nora Sakavic. I read this already. This is going to be a reread because The Golden Raven just came out. Actually like a month ago. I'm way behind. I don't go on Tumblr very often, and that is where the author mainly gives updates on the books. So I hadn't opened Tumblr in a long time, and everyone was like, oh my god, the book's out, it's so good. I was like, oh, the book's out. Oh, it's out. Okay, great. Okay. So I thought I'd vlog my experience rereading The Sunshine Court, and then it's gonna be a separate vlog for The Golden Raven, and then whenever the sixth, whatever you want to say, book comes out, then I will do a third vlog for that, just so that, you know, there's one for each book. And I kind of hope I do a good job talking about this, because when the third book comes out, I don't want to have to read this a third time. I mean, I'm sure I'll want to, but I feel like I'm just going to be fiending to read the third book immediately, and this is just it's gonna hold me back. So this is going to be a full spoiler vlog. If you don't know what this is, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, congratulations. You have lived a lovely life. That's a crazy thing to say. I mean, you have not been subjected to one of probably the most insane book series that exists today. The main book series is, what is it called? The All for the Game trilogy by Nora Sakavic, and it is about this fictional sport called ahhh, and our main character Neil joins this collegiate ahhh team while he is on the run from his mob boss father. He makes friends, it becomes a little found family situation with his teammates. There's murder and the mafia and sports, and it's kind of like my favorite thing, one of my favorite things. Maybe not my top favorite thing, but you know, it's definitely really high up there. And this second series, kind of, it's like a companion series, but it's also the same series. It's just following a different character. It is following one of the people who is on their rival ahhh team. I'm very excited to reread this and get into The Golden Raven. I read this, I think, about exactly a year ago, almost a year ago. I read it in May of 2024. Nora Sakavic pumps these out. They're self-published, so she can. And it's it's really nice. Thank you, Nora. Very, very nice of her. But I am going to just start this. I don't know if there's anything else I want to say about like the content of the books, because I think if you're here, you know? And if you're here and you don't know, fix that. Know first. Again, this is going to be a full spoiler situation so that I can rewatch this in a year when the third book comes out and give myself a little recap. So let's get reading. I love the difference between Neil and Jean, because Neil is so flippant and sassy and stupid in the most loving way, of course, and Jean is like so dramatic and harsh. And this sentence I read, Renee got Jean out of Edgar Allan in exchange for not exposing to the press what goes on there, basically, in the nest. And she says, I doubt we'll see any major changes at Edgar Allan this close to championships, but I'll take my victories where I can for now. And Jean says, this is not a victory, you arrogant fool. He's like 19. That's the craziest part. Me and Jean Moreau are the same age. He's been through so much. Okay. Like, that's funny and insane, and like, really, he's 19, but also like, oh my god, he's 19. We're on page 7. So this might be a long video. Sorry. This is not a victory, you arrogant fool. He's crazy. Like, how can they take him seriously? Well, they don't. But, like, still, like, that's so funny. One thing Nora Sakavic is gonna do, it's describe something in this book as a fractured mess. On the back of the Foxhole Court, the synopsis on the back, it says, the foxes are a fractured mess. And definitely at one point in those books, like in the content of the book, she describes them as a fractured mess. Jean just says, everything before was a fractured mess. Dreams that dissipated before he woke enough to recall them with any clarity. I'm remembering in this book that we get more information about Jean and Kevin's, not friendship, but their bond and how close they were and how close they had to be. And I'm remembering later on in the book, Jean will talk about how it was supposed to be Kevin, Jean, and Nathaniel. And I'm thinking about it and I'm like, I'm not tearing up, but I can feel them in my eyes. Like, I'll talk more about it when that comes. That's not until like way later, I think, but still only on page 23. I'm gonna start a tally of Jean's best insults. On page 24, to Kevin, he says, "You feckless child, you have forgotten yourself." There's something so interesting about Jean and Neil's relationship, or their lack of a relationship, because Jean like thinks about him all the time and his feelings about him are so interesting to see. It's still early in the book and I know we get more on this later, so I won't go too much into it because I'm not really remembering everything at this point, but Jean and Neil, two sides of the same devastating coin. Oh my god. He hasn't played a clean game in years, but he knows how to follow orders. If you tell him to submit, he will. Literally the most awkward way you could have worded it. I love how normal Jeremy is. And then later, like, of course, we learn his own tragic backstory, but like, he's just like a normal guy playing a sport, unlike literally every other character in this book series. I'm showing you an unrelated page because my appearance just should not be on the internet right now, but it's kind of surprising and interesting. Okay, surprising is kind of rude, but interesting how good Nora Sakavic is at sense of place, I guess, because the original series takes place in South Carolina and this book and series takes place in California. And you can feel the difference. Just the way Jeremy right now is describing like waking up at 5 in the morning and getting a coffee and going to Kat and Layla's apartment. I'm like, yeah, this is California. You're right. There's no mention of anything that is specific to California in the few pages of this scene, but it's just like, it feels like we're not in South Carolina anymore. I think this is a really stupid update, but you know, that's what this vlog is for. So, Kevin saw nothing but the court, but Jean had stopped hoping for more than that years ago. Jean confirmed. I mean, we knew. Page 85, Jean is talking to Neil. Tedious malcontent is crazy. That's crazy. One page later, page 86, still talking to Neil. You are only here now because you are an abominable cockroach. Underrated moment that I haven't seen people talk about. Half of the drawer was full of mini candy bars. He threw them all into the trash before grabbing a fork and slamming the drawer shut. He throws all their candy bars away. That's so funny. He's so funny. Still on the same page, page 91. Fuck USC and all their games past and present. Kevin Day was crossing Evermore's court with his racket in his left hand. One of my favorite parts of this book is just this very beginning part where Jean is reacting to the Foxes versus Ravens game. I love it. I loved it the first time. I'm loving it this time, and it's barely started. Kevin Day was crossing Evermore's court with his racket in his left hand. Imagine living in this world and this happening. Like, this is insane. Renee and Jean being the right people but the wrong time is just so heartbreaking. But it's so good. Like, they would be so good. Before this book ever came out, before people ever shipped Jared Jean as a crack ship, it was Renee and Jean. And they were so, like, just the small interactions they even had in the original series, like, oh my god. Give me a third series about an alternate universe with Renee and Jean. Another one of my favorite things about this book is getting to see Neil and Andrew's relationship from the outside. Andrew and Neil moved like they were caught in each other's gravity, in each other's space more than they were out of it. Cigarette smoke and matching armbands and lingering looks when one fell out of orbit for too long. And of course, like, we know that's how they act from the original series, but seeing other people see it, I love it. I love it. Jeremy tangling his yo-yo and his headphones. I love him so much. Like, I'm obsessed with him. I'm literally reverting back to my 14-year-old fandom days. This is bad. He was years away watching a different beautiful boy lean in close to say, "Will you teach me when he's not watching? It could be our secret." Kev Jean and what could have been. I know this is Jeremy and Jean territory right now, but all the Kev Jean moments in this book are like, they're all so heartbreaking, it's actually insane. One of the more famous quotes in this book is when Jeremy gets his hair dyed blonde and Jean sees it for the first time, and he just completely loses all ability to function and just says blonde. And then later on this same page is where we get the confirmation that Jean's name is not pronounced Jean. It is in fact pronounced, I guess, Jean, because he's French. But I know someone named Jean and it's spelled differently. So I'm gonna keep calling him Jean. I also think that is the consensus among fans, is that people pronounce it Jean Moreau. We know not to say more, okay? We're better than more, but it's Jean. Of course, there are many bisexuals on the Foxes team, but Neil famously doesn't swing, and we are in his head for the whole first series, obviously. So it's such a nice change of pace to get a true moment, many actually, true moments of bi-panic from our main characters, or the characters that we're in the heads of. I feel like I haven't heard the phrase bi-panic since like 2018 Tumblr, but you know what? The situation warrants it. To be cringe is to be free. And Jean is finally getting the opportunity to be free. So in the spirit of Layla and Jeremy wearing scandalously sexy swimsuits, let's all be free and cringe together while we read this book, because that's kind of the only way you can be when you read these books, especially because I forgot to say this earlier when I came across it. At one point, Jeremy says the word hecka. Hecka? Hecka? It was way back. It was many pages ago, but like, that's insane. Jeremy pulling out his team captain voice to say, "I asked you a question." We barely get any of his backstory in this first book. We know he has an aversion to cops. His sister is really mad at him right now for some reason. His stepfather hates him, and he tries to avoid being home as much as possible. And like, seeing him, he's not losing his cool by any means, but he is speaking in a stern manner that he usually does not. And I'm so excited to learn, like, literally everything about him. Maybe this is just, like, the nostalgia getting to me, and because I'm predisposed to like these books, it's making me like these books. But it's kind of a testament to Nora Sakavic's writing that we care so much about Jeremy, and we barely know anything about him. Half this book is from his point of view, but we do not get a lot of his history, his backstory, trauma, his past, like we get with Jean. With Jean, we get it slowly and painfully, but we get it. And Jeremy he is very good at compartmentalizing. And I'm so intrigued to see where Nora takes him in the next book. All these things are happening within like 3 pages of each other, but I just have so much to say about this section, because this, like page 195 and before, is when Jean starts to meet other members of the team besides Kat and Layla and Jeremy. And I keep saying one of my favorite parts about this book, but one of my favorite things in this book is every time that Jean, I was gonna say critiques, he doesn't critique, he criticizes. I mean, I guess he does, sometimes he offers some tips to improve the way they play, but he'll just insult people's skills and abilities in Exy, and I think it's so fun. Some could argue and make a very compelling case for the fact that these characters have a gratuitous amount of trauma in their past and in their lives, and to that I would say, you know, you're probably right, but also the story, yeah, it's about Exy, yeah, it's about the mob, but it's about healing from trauma and finding love in your life. Seeing everything that Jean has been through and seeing these characters time and time again reassure him that he did not deserve it. This is gonna sound crazy. I don't think heartwarming is the right word, but like, it's making me emotional. Yeah, and it did the first time too. And the second book is probably going to take me out. Obviously, we know from Kevin and Neil and Jean that Edgar Allan is insane. The Nest is crazy. They're all being abused in ways that, like, are kind of unfathomable, even to Jean, who has been subjected to it for 4 years. He is still, like, he still has trouble processing all of it, understandably, because it's so traumatic. But I feel like, again, like, I'm not on Tumblr super often, but when I read this book the first time, I feel like I didn't see anyone talking about how insane it is that multiple of the Ravens, the Exy players on the team, just start killing themselves in a mass suicide way. Not all of them, but multiple of them in a short amount of time after Raiko's death and in the wake of the Nest kind of shutting down. Like, that's crazy. I feel like no one talks about that. So much crazy stuff happens in these books that you honestly can't talk about everything. It's kind of impossible, but this is just like another layer. Also, there's so much going on personally and interpersonally with the characters that the larger scope does kind of get lost. Because, again, imagine if you were living in this world where one of the top collegiate Exy team has at least three to four players kill themselves in the span of like a month. That's crazy. Also, I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but this book, when this book first came out and I read it like 10 months ago, the book hangover that this gave me is what inspired me to re-download Tumblr, to log back into my Tumblr account that I hadn't touched probably since 2019, 2019, yeah. So that's probably what the second book is going to do to me too. Yep, I've been avoiding it. I was kind of late. The second book I think came out in February. It is now April. I'm late to the train because I knew I wanted to reread this first. So I've been avoiding Tumblr since then. I'm excited to get back. I'm scared. I'm on page 204. So let me read. Getting Jeremy asking Jean, who did this to you? And then an innuendo about Jeremy having a big dick. And then say yes, Jeremy. And then Jeremy helping Jean through a panic attack in the span of 3-4 pages is actually a lot. It's actually really a lot. And I don't mean to make everything that happens in this book all about the romance, because there's not even really a romance in this book. Nothing happens between them, from what I remember. I don't want to minimize everything that Jean is going through in favor of the romance, because I don't think that is what this book is for. But Jeremy is such an integral part to Jean's healing process, and he is an integral part to Jean realizing that he, again, deserves love, deserves care and family. And I just keep repeating myself, without Jeremy being there for Jean in the way that he is, this book would not work. It would not, like, be this book. So I'm just gonna keep bringing it up. It is definitely fun how this book is more explicitly queer than the original series. Again, obviously the main couple in the All for the Game trilogy is two men, but I'm not saying they're any less gay. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this book series has a lesbian couple, a polyamorous couple. At some point, we're gonna have a gay couple, a non-binary character, and like they're named as such. Well, that's actually not true. Like, Kat and Layla say cute shit to each other, and then they say, haha, gay, and then they kiss. Like, that's not something we get in the first series. And I know it's definitely because, like, Andrew's not normal like that. Like, no, and I don't, okay, that sounded so, I don't mean it. I mean, like, he is not the type of person to, like, talk like this. You know, he's not going to Pride. He's not going to drag brunch. Okay? Neil would. I think Neil would. Nikki is kind of the most unapologetically and outwardly queer we get in the first series. And of course there are some issues with his character and some of his actions and how they tie into some negative stereotypes surrounding gay men. You know this. If you're watching this, you know that. But like, it's just fun. It's fun to see like gay people being gay and playing sports as a team, as a family, overcoming their trauma. It is funny that this does still take place in like 2013, but I love it. You know what? It's okay. Like, sometimes they'll talk about like pressing the buttons on their phone, or like, I think Jean has a BlackBerry. It's okay. It's okay. Permission to break his face, coach. Oh my gosh. You know, the Foxes taught him so much. They really influenced him for the better. Exie has a sassy man epidemic, and Jean has learned from the best. Also, Coach White just saying denied. That's so funny. Permission to break his face, coach? Denied. I love like a coach player dynamic. Of course, Wymack and the Foxes, but all 4 of the coaches on the Trojans team, like, they put up with so much shit. And I think it's so funny. One thing that Nora really loves to do is have one last confrontation between the main characters and their abusers. Andrew and Drake and Jean and Grayson. And like, it's hard. Like, it's rough to read. I don't enjoy it. I don't know why she's obsessed with doing that. This is kind of interesting. A little bit earlier in the book, like a few chapters ago, one of the coaches said that something was egregious, and Jean, like, in his internal monologue was like, I don't know that word, but by the look on his face I could assume blah blah blah. And like, you forget that he's French and that his first language is French, and that he doesn't, like, he speaks English extremely well, but like, there's still words that he doesn't know. But he knows, he says the word assuage. You'll not assuage your guilt. But he doesn't know the word egregious. I feel like assuage is a weirder, harder word than egregious is, like, to know the meaning of. I don't know. Neil trying to convince Jean that it's okay to keep people close, especially in the midst of the FBI investigation. What does he say? Who's the safer investment? A man with a dozen reasons not to slip the leash, or a man holding on simply because he was told he couldn't let go? And then on the next page, Jean saying what he usually says, I am just a Moreau. And Neil says, so was Elodie. Remember that the next time you think you aren't worth saving. Circling back to the fact that, like, having people you love is actually, like, good for you, and, like, you should have friends, and you are worthy of love. And yeah, I love Neil. He's come so far. And we also get Jean calling Neil a miserable wretch. He loves to call people wretches. Here we come to the only parts of this book that I underlined the first time around. Page 318. This interaction between Jean and Jeremy, apparently it really got to me more than anything else in the book. Jean says, you made me a promise, so I will hold you to that. Help me survive what comes next. Is that all I can do? It is what only you can do. It does hit just as hard the second time around. I'm almost done with the book, which is crazy and scary, because then I have to read the next one. I get to read the next one. Of course. But I've been avoiding spoilers so thoroughly, I have no earthly idea what to expect in any capacity. Ending this book on Jean's list of things that make him happy and remind him why life is worth living A Cool Evening Breeze, Rainbows, Open Wounds, Teammates, and then deciding against teammates and calling them friends. Stop it. Stop. And then the book's over. We did it. We did it. Oh my god. 5 stars. Okay. Obviously I'm in a different outfit than I was at the beginning of this video. I know since I was kind of only showing you the pages that it, like, you could kind of assume that I was reading this all in one sitting. No. I was just always reading this at night when I was about to go to sleep, and I did not look a way that I wanted to present myself on the internet. So I was just showing you the pages, but I was reading this over the course of like a week every night, and we're done. We're done. Oh my gosh. What do I even want to say? I don't know. 5 stars, I said that already. There is something that I did think was interesting when I first read it, and when I was getting back on Tumblr afterward and hearing what the author kind of had to say, like the decision to make this book take place the summer before the exy season, Jean's senior year, and not even the entire summer. It's like the first half of the summer. Like, their summer practices have just started. It's actually like, it's like the last month of the school year and maybe the first month and a half of the summer. So it's not even the entire summer, and that's why it was gonna be 2 extra books and now it's 3. I think that's why. So I guess the next book, I guess I'm about to see, but I think it's gonna be the rest of summer practices and then maybe the first part of their senior year, and then the 3rd book will be the rest of the senior year. That's what I'm imagining, because I'm imagining the most stuff is gonna happen during the school year, and this was already like a full book of stuff, and it was just the first half of the summer. So you can watch me read the next book in like a week when I finish that. I'll link it below once it's up, and yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.